Hey, what's going on, guys? Brian Jalbert here with JalbertBrothers.com, and I am with actor, writer, producer Tom Malloy. Now, Tom has acted and produced in movies like Love and Dancing, Alphabet Killer, and The Attic, and has written a book for the independent film financer called Bankroll. Tom, thanks for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning, man. How did this whole journey start for you, and what got you in the game?
Well, I started as an actor. I was in a film called Gravesend that we shot back in, I think it was 98. And, we shot it on the streets of Brooklyn. We'd go up to a gang of street thugs and we'd be like, you guys want to shoot a fight scene? They'd be like, yeah, and then big fights would break out every night.
Wow.
But, when it was done, we had a great movie. It was like all improvised. And I had known acting was all I wanted to do. So I really kind of jumped into my first thing. And when we were done, we got Oliver Stone to produce it. And it was in theaters. And,
wow.
That was like the second biggest role in the movie. So when that kind of, like I said, that was about 98 or so. And when that didn't make me a household name, I just started learning every other aspect of the business, which includes writing, includes producing. And then the story goes from there of all the stuff I did. It took a while before I, started learning and getting back into it. And that's when I, made The Attic and Alphabet Killer, Love and Dancing. And now it's like, I think producing, I've done 14 movies I've made as a producer. The last like 2 or 3 as the sole producer. And, and I've been in maybe 30 movies or so. So, yeah.
Wow. What do you think the key has been to your success as far as kind of staying in the game? Because, as far as seeing what you've done and things like that, you really stayed working. And it seems like you kind of created your own destiny as far as where you wanted to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was, I remember in 2004 when I kind of decided that, I could really, that's the only thing that I could do, is all those things was the only work I could do was inside the movie business. And, I had been doing that since about 2001. So it's been about 16 years. And, but at that time I remember going to my agent and saying, I'm an actor, writer, producer. And, she was saying, well, you can't be all three. You got to be one of those things. You can't do more than one. And I joked that I've lost touch with that woman, but that same agent now would say to the actor, you can't be just one. You have to be all three. You have to make your own stuff. So I felt like I maybe was a trailblazer of sorts in that triple hyphenate thing because it was unheard of when I was doing it. And now, people are looping back around going, wait, how are you putting your projects together? And how are you doing this and that? And hence you mentioned Bankroll. And that, there was 2 editions of that book, and that became kind of the gold standard book as far as film financing and getting your projects going. But then they asked me to do a 3rd edition. I didn't do it, so I'm not even sure Bankroll's available anymore. But we did a thing called the Film Finance Guide, like if you go to filmfinanceguide.com. And so it's all those things that people wanted to learn as far as getting their own projects going on their own. So, but gosh, as a writer and alone, I've done about 30 screenplays. I'm in the guild. I've optioned, sold or made into films about 20, 23, somewhere in that number. So all of these things, it was, I try to make it now an easy, straightforward path for other people if they ask me how to do it, but it was not, it was a lot of work and a lot of different things to put it all together. So,
Okay. Looking back on it, what are a couple things that you could tell somebody just getting into the game that has a love for producing per se, getting the finance to get their movie done? Because I hear that's the biggest thing I come across. Everybody's like, well, I don't have the money. Yeah. And I hear that all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the famous Dove Simmons saying, which is great. It takes 9 words to become a producer. That's it. 9 words is I have multiple projects in various stages of development. That's it. All you have to do is say there's 9 words and you're a producer. But when you say I have money or I have funding, then it sets you apart from a different producer, from the other producers. I remember after I had done my movie The Attic, which I didn't think was a great film, but it was Alexander Daddario and Elizabeth Moss, myself. And my goal initially was to put myself in good supporting roles so that I could prove I was just as good as the other people in there. And, The Attic came out, but it was like, here was my first film and didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to. I didn't really get to the point where I was making movies exactly the way I wanted to until the past couple films. I mean, like my movie Screamers, which is my hopefully my biggest film and will be a big success. That was the first film where 100% of what I wanted ended up on the screen.
Really?
But anyway, yeah. Well, I'll get to that later. But the bottom line is with The Attic, I was saying is that once I'd done that and funded that movie through private equity, I remember being at a party and I just, people, it was like I was the pretty girl at the prom. Like everybody wanted to talk to me. And I thought I just did one movie. That's all I did. But they had, and maybe some of them had done 10, 15 movies. But the difference is none of them had raised all their financing. They had just kind of taken jobs and they'd done, things here and there and they were work for hire. And so none of them knew what to do. And they were already asking questions.
So how do you actually go about getting the finance? So is it because the thing I've always found, it always seems like a connection that leads to another connection, and you meet somebody, and then you get to know them. It's more building a personal relationship, or maybe building trust with somebody.
Well, yes, I mean having those high level relationships are great. That's the best way to eventually get somebody to kind of believe in you and trust you. I think the thing that a lot of people mistake is that they say, I'd love to raise money for my movie. And you say, well, could you put me in front of some financiers? And the thing is, if you don't have a prepped project, like something that makes sense, something that looks professional, has all the elements in place, it's actually worse. You go in front of those people, they're going to think, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And they'll probably never take a legit meeting with you. So most of like the Film Finance Guide, I also teach this kind of give back course called Intentional Filmmaking with the great Carol Dean, who's a great speaker on film and filmmaker, and she has me in to do the nuts and bolts of producing. But the first of 8 classes that we do it online. I'd say 5 or 6 of them are on prepping the project. And you would think, I want to know how to get the money. It's like, no, you don't. Trust me. If you have a prep project, the money starts to flow to you because you're looking in the right directions, and now you have a real asset to sell.
Okay. So basically get it ready. So it's almost like pre-production. Make sure it's pre-productioned enough to where it looks legit and you have some pieces in place. Yeah,
totally. You have to have all those things in place or else you're not stacking the deck in any favor. And I'm not talking about just making a movie. I'm talking about stacking the deck in the favor of getting it financed. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to distribution because those seem to be the biggest things, is the finance and distribution aspect. I noticed you've got a distribution company now.
Yeah.
What did you do in that, and kind of, what was your reasonings?
Well, there was the company's called Glass House Distribution, and there was a Wall Street broker dealer that I had done some business with. That his name was Brian Glass, and he wanted to fund a distribution company because through his research, he felt that was the best money play as far as the film business goes, with the lowest risk and the highest reward, and which is right. And he came to me and he said, would you run it? And so we co-founded it together, and now, and I'm the president of it. And now we have 2 other great people working for us, that have Rob Deej and Michelle Alexandria that have sales experience for years and years. And, we just started acquiring films under the guise of Glass House Distribution. It's called that because of his name, obviously, but it's Glass House. You can kind of look in and see everything that's going on. We're just totally transparent as far as what we can do with your film. Here are the fees, blah, blah, blah. So the filmmakers love us. And, the buyer relationships are just getting more and more. We were just in Cannes with the booth and sold a lot of titles. So did a lot of business there. The goal for me is to have it, a real, and it's growing and growing, and to have it expand to the point where then I can start funding movies based on my own distribution model and say, well, I know I can make this off a movie. So then let's start, let's fund for 80% of that or 75% of that, knowing that no matter what minimum, we can clear this. So that's the ultimate goal. So.
Nice. Are you guys getting a pretty good roster putting together of films now?
Yeah. If you go to glasshouseddistribution.com, you can look there. But I mean, one of our films, Dropping the Soap, is a TV show in the States, and then internationally, it's a film with Jane Lynch and Missy Pyle and Dietrich Bader. What's her name? Mimi Rogers. And we also have a movie called Girl Flu, which is great. Katie Sackhoff, Jeremy Sisto, Heather Matarazzo. It's a great. I mean, we have a pretty high bar as far as the quality of the films that we're taking now. Like we started off picking small films that we thought were really good, but now we can get movies that have a couple names in them and are also really good. So, we're growing and growing. So.
Nice. So just to kind of touch on a few things here, what is this is kind of a fun question here. What's your favorite part, man? I know you produce, write, and act. If you had to choose one.
It's tough. I think definitely the acting is my favorite, performing because, comedy wise, I put because I graduated at IO West improv school and, same place that Chris Farley and Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and all them. And I put my comedy stuff against anybody. There's no comic actor. I'm not talking about stand up. I'm talking about actor in a scene that I feel intimidated by. Like there's nobody. I'll put that up against anybody. So, and I love doing it. I love getting the reactions. I love timing and all that stuff. Producing, funny enough, is I'm not sure I love every aspect of it. I was going to say that's on the low end side. It could really, I used to joke that inside I'm like 85 years old because it's like all the beatdowns, the emotional beatdowns you take as a producer. But I've become quite zen, so I don't. There was a time where I would say I almost disliked it, but I've become much more zen about certain things. It's the Robert Evans approach of this is nothing. Oh, this is nothing. And then nothing kind of bothers you. So I'm better with the producing, and I enjoy it. So I enjoy every aspect. I like acting. I love acting the most. Distribution has been a new thing for me, so that's kind of fun. Selling movies to these buyers. So it's all good.
Now, what got you to write a book? What was your reasoning for writing the book Bankrolled?
Well, I always give advice. I like to help people, and I was giving so much advice, and I was giving so much, time to projects. I would, people would email me and tell me they got a project and whatever, and they want to know what to do with it, and I'd say, let's go out to lunch. I would go out to lunch, Studio City somewhere, and I joked that a lot of times they were broke artists, so I even had to pick up the tab for lunch. So it's like I was giving them all this information, and I'm buying lunch for them. So, it was really, initially it was a time thing. It was like kind of here's how I did it. And it was, it was kind of a give back, put that karma out there. Here's, you can read this book and see what I did. And the people that love it, which is most people, and they like the fact that I was just honest. I talk about failures and talk about the things I did right. So like I said, if I took this kind of path, somebody else could read it and take a direct path. And that's the goal.
So have you had projects where you just started and it just, for some reason, didn't get funding or didn't get moving? How many projects have you actually got going and then failed, per se, for the ones you got done?
Oh, tons. I mean, maybe now I'm developing a lot less, and I'm trying to be very laser focused on the films that I want to do. But I mean, there is not countless, but I'd say maybe 4 times the amount of movies I've done that.
Really? Wow.
That I have not been made, because there's, again, that joke about the various stages of development is very much true. It's like I have something where I have in a script form. I can tell you 3 or 4 scripts that I know I have the rights to, even if it's not on paper, I could sell them. And those are in very small state. All there's script form. You know what I mean? Then other ones where there's some attachments that, but the genre may be right or the timing may be right. Then other ones I pushed. I mean, there's one that was all the way to casting and setting dates, and then the money fell through, So it's like things happen like that all the time. So you have to become a little bit less emotionally attached to everything. I mean, I started thinking that there was too much at times and really just start focusing on getting them one and done. And I think that's better. But like right now I have 2 that are the main ones, but theoretically I'd say probably 6 that I could say I'm involved in.
Wow, so you kind of keep a couple different going at the same time?
Yeah, always, because you never know what if you have a tennis movie, let's just say, that's the only thing you want going, and you're running into somebody that wants to do horror movies or wants to do, family films or wants to do this or that. It's like, how are you, that's it. You can't fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, somebody just came to me and they said they wanted to do a faith-based film. And did I have anything? And I said, yeah, I did. And it was funny because I had developed it years ago and then kind of abandoned it. with a friend of mine, and I brought that back in the fold. So that I always have those kind of things too, where they may not be the main ones I'm pitching, they're in the back burner or whatever, but something comes up that makes me go, oh yeah, that's perfect. You know, they're looking for the faith-based. Yeah, I got something, you know, and there it is. So,
okay. So kind of when you're dealing with somebody, per se, a financier or something, and they just mention, hey, I'd love to do this. Instead of pitching the one that they don't want and changing their mind, you'll take out something that they do want, per se.
Of course. Oh yeah. You never want to pitch what somebody doesn't want, especially when you see it, you know, especially when they're very clear what they don't want. I've seen that happen. We had some, at AFM, our booth last year, some people that we shared a booth, and they were masters of pitching what people didn't want. Like they only had a certain kind of film, and I would just hear them pitching. I mean, somebody would come in and say, look, we're not looking for horror movies. And they'd say, all right, well, we got this horror movie's really good. Guy says, well, I'm not looking. They go, well, let me just, you know, hear us out. They give the whole pitch. I remember this perfect time. And me and Rob are looking like, oh my God. And they give the whole pitch. And at the end, he was like, yeah, but I'm not looking for horror movies. And they were like, shh, whatever, man. You know, and I'm like, how is that? That is the worst sales technique. You know, it's like, I can't imagine even the worst used car salesman always agree with you. Always. If you come in and say, well, I'm not looking for a convertible, they don't say, well, you got to have this. They go, oh yeah, you don't want a convertible. You want the SUV. That's what they do. You know, and these guys were like, you know, so yeah, you never want to pitch what somebody doesn't want because it's just not going to work, you know?
So let me ask you this, man. When you got into this thing, did you read a lot? Did you just learn by trial and error? What were some of the biggest ways you learned in the beginning? You know?
Well, all of it. You know, I read a ton, trial and error I did, you know, but I'd say the best thing was mentors, you know, watching people work. I mean, I remember when I first started getting back into it, I did a lot of background work. Not a lot, maybe say 5 times in films. And I never wanted to be on camera. Never. I mean, you should see the best part about background, if you've ever done it, is that everybody's jockeying to be on camera because they think, you know, people are just kind of sneaking in front of you and trying to like sneak into the frame. And I was like, just get me away from the camera because I didn't want to be known as any background player. What I wanted to do was sit there and watch how this actor worked, watch how this director worked, watch how these producers work, and just pay attention to everything on a studio level and how it was all run. So I did that. As well as the independent films, the people that I made my first 2 movies with had produced about 30 movies. And so I partnered with them because I brought the money. And so, of course, if I'm bringing the money, they're going to take me under their wing. And I just kind of shut up and listened. And that was it, you know, and then my learning curve was steep because I paid attention and I didn't, you know, you never want to go in a situation, which, by the way, is one of my pet peeves. I hate when people do this, where you don't know what you're talking about, but you pretend you do know what you're talking about. It's the worst. I hate when people do that. It's better to just shut up and not say anything than be that, you know, or say, listen, I'm new to this, you know, and that's much more respected than saying, oh, well, we need to do this, even though you have no clue what the hell you're talking about, you know. And so I didn't, thank God, do that. I just went in and said, you know, let me learn, and it worked.
That's cool, man. It's cool. Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't want to take up too much of your time, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. Where can they find you? What projects do you have that you want to push out there to let people know, hey, check it out, so they can kind of, you know, look into you a little bit and find out who you are and what you've done, man?
Cool. Well, you know, it's the Film Finance Guide, which I mentioned before, is a great tool as far as making your films happen. And I think there's another one called Movie Plan Pro that I put out with a guy named Jason Brubaker, as far as business plans for movies. And I mean, these are not expensive items at all, you know, maybe $15 or something for Movie Plan Pro. Again, I never wanted to make it where it was something ridiculously high that, you know, people couldn't pay. The other way to find me, I mean, my movie that I'm most excited about is this film called Screamers that we're just finalizing a deal on. Hopefully, you know, everything goes good. There's going to be a big release of this film, and it's a scary movie. If you search screamersthemovie.com is the website, or if you go to #ScreamersTrailer, you'll see the trailer for that. I have a couple more. I have a movie called Fairhaven that comes out to Showtime this month that I'm excited about, that I was the sole producer on. And so, yeah, you know, it's just, I mean, I got tons of time. I have a show, Midtown, on Amazon. If you search like Midtown Tom Malloy, it's kind of a cop improvised comedy about NYPD cops, and that's doing well. So a lot of irons in the fire. So
that's cool, man. So I'll put links to everything down below so everybody can kind of check out your stuff, man. And I appreciate you, coming on the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Anytime. Awesome.
All right, Tom. Thanks, man.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.